Hello, my name is Bernard Keevy. Welcome to 7 Steps to Build a 7-Figure Business You Can Sell If You Want. Now that sounds a bit of a cliche, but it's actually true. There is a 7-step process, and what I'm going to do today is spend about 10 to 15 minutes just giving you what they call a 30,000-foot overview of the process. So it's all up here. This looks very complicated, but actually it's quite straightforward if you follow through the logic. So your starting point will always be your thought process, and you need absolute clarity. So this is supposed to indicate a light bulb giving absolute clarity. So the idea is, if you really know what you want and where you want to get to and when you want to get there, etc., then you'll achieve it. And if you don't have absolute clarity, if there's any sort of confusion, then you won't. You've probably heard it before. 3% of adults have written goals which they review regularly, and maybe fewer than that probably have got absolute clarity about what they want. But you need to have this absolute clarity. So that's step one. So you've got to decide where you want to go with your business. Now this 96.4 here, what that represents is that research proves that 96% of small business owners are in that business because they're doing something that they're good at and that they like doing, i.e. they're good on operations. And only 4% are in business because they're good at business. So that's the big figure really. The 96%, obviously, if they want to build this 7-figure business that they can sell, they need to get better at their business skills. So step one is having absolute clarity and realizing that you need to work on your business. Step two effectively says that none of it will happen unless you actually set time aside to do so. Again, very few business owners take time out of the working week to work on their business. When I was at Growth Accelerator, there was a survey done that said that 67% of small business owners spend less than 2.5 hours a week working on their business. And I think they were actually reasonably successful small businesses. They were the ones that were actually growing. So you can see it's an issue. So finding the time in the working week to work on your business is step two. Now, if you've read Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, you'll know that he talks about sharpening the saw, and he talks about time in terms of urgency and importance. Urgency means you've got a deadline to do something. So they're the things that have to be done, and they end up on people's to-do lists. And, you know, the good thing is to have them in order of importance. But the thing is, there are also things that are really important, which are all of these things, which don't tend to have deadlines. You know, if it doesn't happen today and it doesn't happen tomorrow, it won't make that much difference. But if it hasn't happened in 6 months' time, it does make a big difference. The only way you'll get these quadrant 2 things done, which are the important things, which don't have a deadline, so they're not urgent, is if they're diarised beforehand. So this time management basically involves having time set aside on a regular basis in your diary, which is sacrosanct and which is devoted to working on your business. And it will be devoted to working on all the things that are on this page. So it'll be things like working out a strategy for your business. It'll be things like working out strategic marketing for your business. It'll be things like working on your own skills, your own qualifications, reading the right material, your own self-motivation, etc., etc. So step one is absolute clarity, and step two is making that decision to set time aside to actually work on these things and to actually do it. Step three here is, it's meant to be a 6-figure, a 6-cylinder engine. Now the idea here is that if you have a car and one of the cylinders in your engine isn't working properly, then the car won't perform very well, and you probably won't be able to sell it for a very good price. And it's the same with a business. There are 6 cylinders in any business. This comes from a friend of mine in America called Frank Momolo, who did a presentation for us at one of our conferences. So I would just like to pay tribute to Frank, because this was his patented idea, and I think it's a great idea. So in case he's watching, I thought I'd just mention his name. What Frank basically said, which I think makes a lot of sense, is that these 6 cylinders for any business are having a strategy in place, understanding your finances, knowing how to strategically do your sales and marketing, operations, which is where most small businesses owners are very good anyway, so that's not an issue, because 96% of them are in business because they're good at operations, i.e. what they do. Having systems in place, and which probably then means having people in place in an organization chart fulfilling the parts of the system that you've got in place. Now, if you've got all of those things in place, you've got a business you can sell. And if you haven't got all those things in place, then you probably haven't got a business you can sell, particularly the systems bit, because if your business is all about you, and if you're not there, it doesn't make money, and you don't make money, then that's two things. One, you can't afford to be off ill or go on holiday. And two, you can't sell your business because you can't sell something that doesn't exist independently of you. So step 3 is recognizing that you need to work to develop all 6 systems in your business, all 6 cylinders in your business. Step 4 starts with one of those cylinders, which is strategy. Now, very few adults have written goals, and therefore very few business owners have written strategies. And really, you need strategies written out in detail for the next 3 years, the next 1 year, and for 90 days. And these strategies need to basically say where you want to get to, and why, and then how you're going to get there. So the strategy needs to be what you want to do and why you want to do it, and then worry about how you do it afterwards, because the how comes into when you work on your business. If you said, for example, I want to double my sales in the next 90 days, then if you sat down and said, I want to double my sales in the next 90 days and wrote it out, and then forced yourself to come up with 20 written answers, you'll work out how you do it, but you won't work out how to do something until you know what it is you actually want to do and why. So this written strategy, they're the 3 main time periods, I think. 3 years is quite far ahead, but not too far that it isn't within your horizon. You could go further, but certainly those 3 are crucial times. So written strategies for 3 years, for the next 1 year, and for the next 90 days. Step 5, you need to understand that to build any business, it's all about long-term strategic marketing. So short-term, you can have quick fixes, but to actually take your business to a next level over the longer term, you need to market it correctly, and you need to do what's called strategic marketing. Now, strategic marketing involves, first of all, 4 things. It involves having something good to say. Now, having something good to say, what I mean by that is something that means that your ideal customers, your ideal clients, will buy from you as opposed to buy from your competitors for reasons other than you're competing on price. So it's having something good to say that basically says you need to use us, and it's not because, you know, our price is more competitive than the others. Now, there's a fundamental law of human behavior which effectively says that people like to buy from people they perceive as either experts or specialists. So your having something good to say has to be something that portrays you as an expert or a specialist in your field for your particular chosen target customer or client, your target market. Now, you can have more than one of these. You can have 6, 7, 8 of them if you want, but your marketing has to be aimed separately at each of those individual target markets, and it has to be done in such a way that it portrays you as an expert or a specialist, and therefore there are reasons to use you other than, you know, shopping around on price. Because if you don't get past the shopping around on price hurdle, if you like, then it becomes very difficult to achieve any of the rest of this. So having something good to say. The second of these 4 sayings is say it to the right people. Now, the right people are obviously your ideal customer, your ideal client. So you need to work out who your ideal customer or client is, and more importantly, what it is that motivates them to buy, which would tend to be 70% of the time an issue, a problem, or a concern they've got that they haven't got a solution to. So that's the second thing, say it's the right people. The third thing is say it well, and say it well is this thing here. This is called the conversion equation. And the way this works is I stands for interrupt. So interrupt basically means that at any given moment, most of the population are walking around on effectively autopilot. And it's only if you can interrupt people out of downtime into what we call uptime that you can grab their attention. And the way you do that is by what's called an interrupt. So it's either the first thing you say or it's a headline. And effectively what you say is, you've got this issue, problem, or concern that you haven't got a solution to. Smack, that's it. That will jerk them into attention. However, once you've got them into attention, you need to keep them engaged, which is what the E stands for, engage. So the second thing you say, or your subheadline has to say, that was your issue, problem, and concern, and I can offer you a solution. Okay, and that will keep their interest then, because it'll be, yeah, I have got this issue, problem, or concern, so that means something to me. I'm interested now because there's a possible solution. The third thing here, E, stands for educate, which effectively says this solution, this is how it works. So what you have to do is this, that, and the other. What we do is this, that, and the other. These are people who've done it. These are the results we've had. This is exactly what the process is. So here's your problem, we can offer a solution, this is how it works, educate. And then the fourth one here is O, stands for offer. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because most people, I'll say most people, a lot of people think that offer means something that persuades people to want to buy, but it isn't, because strategically 97% of your potential market are not now buyers, and only 1 to 3% are. So strategically you need to have an offer that engages with all of these people rather than just the 1 to 3% here. And the only way you can do that is to give them what they're looking for. And what these people are looking for is information, because they're making what's called a buying decision along the buyer's journey, and they're making a decision as to whether to buy or not to buy. And the only way they can make that decision is to get information about what the benefits are of what you have to offer, which they may not have known about before, what the drawbacks are and how they can overcome them, and how the benefits outweigh the drawbacks. And then once they've got to that stage where they think they might want to buy this thing, then they'll start saying, who should I buy from? And then they'll be looking for a specialist or an expert generally. So your offer has to be an offer to give them some information to help them on the buyer's journey. The sort of information they're looking for could be things like an ideas guide, it could be a checklist, it could be, you know, a sample pack that gives them different things to compare and look at, but it's got to be information. And the thing is, once they've engaged with you and they've asked for this offer, for the information, which is all of these four things, to say it well, so interrupt, engage, educate, and a risk-free offer, you come on to the fourth say, and the fourth say is say it often. So we've got have something good to say it to the right person, say it well, and then the fourth one, because of this buyer's journey, you need to get your message across to them, typically 8, 12, it depends, but it can be more than that, but it needs to be multiple contact points. So you need to drip feed them information to help them along the buyer's journey. And this is where you've heard these figures that 20% of sellers give more than 1 to 3 points of contact, whereas 80% plus of buyers need anything from 5, 8, 12 points of contact before they buy. So it's the 80-20 rule again, which effectively says that 80% of the business, i.e. of the buyers, will go to 20% of the sellers who keep going long enough to give enough points of contact and enough pieces of information to engage all the way to nurture the prospect along the buyer's journey. So have something good to say is what we call a market dominating position, which puts you in place as a specialist or an expert. Say it's the right person effectively says you need a clearly defined target market, more than one, but you approach each one differently. And you need to know what their issue or concern is, and you need to then say it well, which is, you've got this problem or concern, I can offer you a solution, this is how it works. So interrupt, engage, educate, and if you want to find out more and help you decide whether to buy or not, I can offer you some risk-free information by you leaving me your details, and I'll supply you an information pack or an ideas guide, and I'll keep giving you further pieces of information. Obviously, how you supply this information, it could be by letter, it could be by email, and obviously you've got GDPR and all these sort of things in place. But this is the concept, and it works differently for different businesses, but this is what you would do. And that is called strategic marketing. So it's 4 things that you say, something good to say it to the right person, say it well, say it often. It's following the conversion equation, which says interrupt, engage, educate, and risk-free offer, i.e. not call me for a consultation, because that's risky. It's say it often, which is a drip campaign aimed at nurturing a prospect along the buyer's journey. And that is step 5, which then leads on to step 6, which says that in order to really take your business to the next level, you need to keep going long enough to be not amongst the 10%, is it, that fail within 5 years. And you can only do that by understanding your finances. So you need to understand, I think, 3 crucial things. 1, what's your break-even point? Now, your break-even point is how much do you need to sell each month or each year to start making a profit? That can be worked out for any business, and once you know that figure, you can make slight improvements in your sales revenue figure, your variable cost, and your fixed cost figure, and you only have to make small improvements to drive this break-even point down. And what you can often find is that making small 5% improvements reduces your break-even point by anything from, say, 20 to 30 to 40%. And once you've done that, what you'll find is that selling as much as you were selling before to just break even, you now start to make a substantial profit every month. So this is a really important figure to know, and a really important figure to work on. And the other two big ones are the difference between cash flow and profit, because an awful lot of people think that if there's money in the bank, they can spend it because they must be making a profit. Or they think if there's not money in the bank, they must be losing money. And the thing is, the two are interdependent. So you can be a profitable business running out of cash, which means you're in trouble. Or you can be a cash-rich business, which is not making a profit, which also means you're in trouble. So you need to understand the difference between the two, and you need to actually monitor and measure them. So that's step 6, which is knowing your finances. And then step 7 comes all the way back to, if you want to sell this business for, whenever. If you want to sell a business, you can only do it if there are systems in place that mean that if you're not there, the business still functions. So these 6 cylinders here, strategy is important, operations is probably already taken care of, finances are crucial, strategic sales and marketing is crucial, and if you have systems in place, you'll probably have people in positions to implement those systems, unless you outsource everything, which means that systems and people tend to be interrelated. So a quick summary, it all starts with having absolute clarity about where you want to take the business, and with the knowledge that 96% of business owners are good on operations, good at what they do, but probably not so good on the rest, which means they need to set time aside to work on the 80-20 rule, which says that 20% of what you do on a day-to-day basis will get you 80% of your results. And these are the 20% things. And you will only work on those if you take time out of being busy by diarising here time slots to work on your business. Typically, you hear people talk about an hour a day, 90 minutes a day. Nigel Botterill from the Entrepreneurs Circle recommends. But you need to set regular time aside. Once you do that, you then say, well, your business is a 6-cylinder engine, and you need to have a strategy in place. You need to work on strategic sales and marketing. You need to understand your finances, and you need to have systems in place in order to make your business a sellable asset. Now, that was a 30,000-foot overview. Obviously, in 10 to 15 minutes, that doesn't tell you an awful lot of detail. If you want to know more and you're in the area, on Tuesday, the 26th of June at 7:30 in the morning till 10 o'clock, so 2.5 hours, at Hogarth's Hotel in Solihull, I'm running another workshop. I ran one a couple of weeks ago and the response was very good. So if you're interested, I'm only charging enough to cover the cost of breakfast for people who respond to this promotion. So if you're interested, message me on Facebook. I'll give you further information. And what I'll do is I'll spend 2.5 hours of solid content going through all of this in far more detail and making sure that you fully understand how it could all apply to your business. So that's Tuesday the 26th of June, 7:30 till 10, Hogarth Hotel, Solihull. Now, if you found this useful and interesting, then could you please share it and thumbs up it and send, feedback and all that sort of stuff. And hopefully, I hope you found that of interest, and you can now understand that there are literally 7 steps to build a 7-figure business that you can sell if you want to. This is Bernard Keavy. Thank you very much for your attention, and looking forward to the next one. Thanks very much.